Gentlemen, we're going to move on to our next set of challenge, and this will be from our media sector challenges. And our first presenter comes from a new media outfit in Singapore. And TSL Media is touted as the largest new media group in Singapore. And TSL, of course, stands for the Smart Local. And they are a very, very popular content portal, I believe. The flagship is located at thesmartlocal.com. And they reach over 3 million Singaporeans each month. And guess what? TSL also expanded throughout the region. I believe they're in Thailand, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, and Philippines as well. It's my great pleasure right now to invite Mr. Brian Chu, the CEO of the Smart Local. And Brian heads the business and content strategy of TSL. And let's just say hi to Brian. Brian, are you here, Brian?
Yes, I am. Hey, Billy.
Hi, thank you. Are you all excited to showcase your two challenges? I believe you have two. The first one is called AI-enabled talent matching for the creative industry. So that's one, talent matching. And the other one will be on the social media topic trend monitoring analysis, which again is a very popular topic that I think a lot of people are interested in. So Brian, are you ready to showcase your two business challenges? We can start the first one first, which is the and then we'll do a Q&A together as well. So please take it away, Brian. Looking forward to this.
I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. So everybody, you guys can see my screen, right? Thumbs up, you can see my screen. Okay.
Yeah, I can see your screen. It says Open Nation Platform. Thank you very much for the shout out to us. And just out of curiosity, Brian, are you gonna play the guitar as well?
Not this time.
We'll have some musical interlude as well. Okay, never mind. Take it away, Brian. We'll catch up you at the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us, taking the time to join us this afternoon. Okay, so credit to IMD because IMD actually helped us also prepare this slide. I mean, we worked with the team to go and essentially coordinate and articulate the problem that we have. So I'm just going to jump straight into it. For the first problem, there are two problems in total. And for the first problem, what we want to do is we want to solve talent matchmaking in the creative industry. So you can think of it right now as the problem that we're trying to solve is that when a lot of people want to find talent, so this could be like cast, or it could be maybe crew to work with, be like videographers, directors and whatnot, or actors, actresses and whatnot. A lot of times they have to depend on personal contacts. If not, they would just have to go and put out a post in like various Facebook posting groups. And it's not ideal. It's not like a tech-driven solution. And the idea is to create like this resource hub for the entire community, which then which could use such a system. So maybe a bit about us first. A bit about us, like a quick 30-second introduction is we started as a lifestyle and travel portal back in 2012, but we've expanded very rapidly. And across different verticals, we now have Eatbook under us, which covers food, Zula covers female, MS News, which covers news. We also have a video production arm. And every year, our cumulative article views are over 200 million, and our video views are about 180 million, which is very significant considering a population of 6 million just in Singapore. So IMDA has very kindly offered to try and maybe upskill or uptech somewhat like the media sector. So we really hope that we can do this project together with them and with you guys. Okay, so this first problem statement, maybe it's best if I go and share this. I'll share my screen. My screen of I'll share a demo site soon. But essentially, what this page or what this website and hub serves to be is a hub which connects all the talent in Singapore, specifically the talent in the media industry. So you can imagine like on IMDb, right? If you guys have gone to IMDb before, you will know that there's a very nice filmography. You could click on the director's name and you can see like all the previous work that they have done. In Singapore at the moment, there isn't any sort of like information, or it's very, very difficult to find the information for like actors, actresses and whatnot. The information just doesn't exist. So we want to go and what we're looking for from a tech partner is someone who can build the infrastructure for this. And we are the ones who will then populate this with content. But this would be like a very large encyclopedia also for the media scene in Singapore, which will also function as like a jobs platform as well, because it would allow people to easily find people who have the relevant experiences for them. If we could use some sort of AI as well, AI-driven job matching and assignment, mean that, for example, if you are a director and you're working on a new project and you have all these roles specified that you want to fill, maybe this person just clicks on the button and it's like generate recommendations, and then suddenly you have like all the list of potential people that for each of these roles which they can consider, which also and the system also considers their availability over the upcoming months. So that's what we mean by like a AI driven job matching and searching. So that would be ideal, but this is more of like the in a later phase. The basic phase, we just want it to work as like a jobs portal, somewhat like a jobs portal, but with like very detailed information of people. So for example, let me just share with you what's on Cult Jobs. You guys can see this screen at the moment, right?
Yes, I can see your demo site. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think Cult Jobs is quite fantastic because essentially they were created as a job site for like the media industry. So right now it's doing pretty well. There's definitely a big demand. You can see there's a lot of advertisers on this, right? So it's kind of like this, but it's a lot more detailed. For example, you would have a job section like this as well, but we would also have specific role section. For example, if you're an actor, if you're an actress of a particular age, right, people will be easily able to find gigs being posted like this, which they can then go and apply for, like a one-click button, apply for, and then after that, on the other side, the company can see essentially the resume of the people. It's kind of like JobsDB, JobStreet, JobsDB, kind of like that, but for the media scene. So this is one example. Later on, if this and like this is the basic part, right? If this basic part, so okay, maybe we'll break it down to 3 parts. The basic part is just having a job database. If you guys really have a solution out of the box or whatever, and when that requires customization, that's also something that we can work with. Yeah, but that would be the first part. The second part, which would be all the data and the content that we can go and attach to this particular roles, so that like a director will have his, all his full works that he's done before. It's very easy for people to see. And there will also be like a ratings and review section where people, it's kind of like Grab. It's just simple. It's like a 5-star, 4-star. People can just leave like their comments if they've worked with them before. And then the final part is the AI part. What are the applications beyond the job space? Well, there was a page called Instagram Glassdoor reviews quite some time ago, which is very popular because essentially people who were in the media industry and they worked a lot with KOLs, they always got very varied experiences. And the reason for this is there's no rating system, there's no transparency, nothing, right? So they created this Instagram page, and then they would rate KOLs, they would rate influencers, and then people would then discover who are the good influencers to work with and whatnot. But obviously that one it stopped after a while because of other complications. But one of the actual users for this system would then to apply that to the KOL industry also. It's the same infrastructure, it's just a different category. Instead of like media industry jobs, it just becomes KOL jobs. Another application is, for example, if we started doing things where there's very little transparency, for example, the renovation industry, right? There is very little transparency down there, and people want to find essentially good contractors and good IDs, but it's so hard to find a good contractor and good ID. So again, that's another application. But we're getting a bit ahead. We're just thinking of all the future possibilities. I think the main thing is the 3 phases. It is first to create like a job listing page. The next part is to create like some sort of infrastructure so that it's easy to go and support adding different content, a different history of work. And the last part is some sort of AI-driven technology. Okay, so this is for, sorry, Billy, I'm not sure of the time, right? Like, how much time do we have? Do I have left for the
time? No
first part?
Yeah. Still okay. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we are looking for as well. Okay, KOLs, and then price money of 50K. Well, yeah. I guess the thing which sets TSL apart is that we really have that massive network and distribution. So we don't have to worry about traction. We are going to get traction very easily. Like, I mean, recently we just created this. I don't know, you guys may have seen it. We created this like salary database called answers.sg. And essentially we got 30,000 submissions in about 3 days. Like we work with TSL, the infrastructure and the distribution network is really there. This project would then will get traction pretty quickly. So that's what you have going for you. You get like the instant access to the market. Okay. Apart from the prize money awarded. Okay, so let's go back to the deadline. So maybe we'll go the deadline. I think it's standard for all applications, right? So let's just go to the Q&A if anyone has questions for this first
Thank you,
problem
Brian,
statement.
for presenting the first challenge from TSL. And yes, as Brian noted, this is the media sector challenge. So the closing date is actually next Friday, 16th of July. And now we're going to take questions from the floor for Brian on this first challenge from TSL, which is AI-enabled talent matchmaking for the creative industry. Okay, Brian, this looks like a very nice drink. Can you share with me? I'm just kidding. Okay, basically, okay, Brian, I have a very layman's question for you. Basically, I'm assuming that TSL has already taken a look around the market to see whether there's something that you can actually already use, right, to create this portal. But what stopped you, or what's lacking in the market right now that you need to turn to OIP?
Well, the closest thing I guess to this is called jobs, but it's more for jobs, full-time jobs, rather than things like projects. There isn't like a project, and because the information is so I won't say it's disorganized. It's just that it's not for this media industry in particular, for like this niche of like photographers and talents. Because of that, it's hard to get visibility. So what everyone in the industry is like, most of the people in the industry, they're just turning to Facebook groups. And Facebook groups it's a bit disorderly, a bit chaotic, and also sometimes people also have their own agenda in the Facebook groups, the Facebook page owners. So we want to create like an open platform essentially, which we believe that will be very, very good for the media industry in the long term. And because we are essentially providing a solution for a very big problem, which a lot of producers have. At least, my team, I mean, I cannot speak for everyone in the industry, but my team struggles quite a bit with finding the correct profiles, the correct talent. And it's a lot of asking a friend's friend. And we want to try and make it easy for anyone, even like a new company or an old company which suddenly needs like a more established company which maybe needs a huge headcount of 100 people for some Hollywood project which is coming into Singapore. Right? With this, right, you enable, if you have this sort of system, then immediately use technology to go and solve this problem.
Okay, Brian, don't mind me following on my question. So basically,
Sure.
Based on what I've seen so far, right, the perception is that okay, I mean this in a very in a very a neutral sense. It does seem to be a bit like a carousel for creative talent. What else are you looking beyond this? Yeah.
We also want it to be a place for the media industry, meaning that, well, people should know what are the latest movies being published in Singapore, the latest films which go. A lot of times these films go under the radar, and the only chances of it reaching mainstream Singapore attention if it wins some award overseas. So we want to know that, okay, these are the works of our, but because we do have quite a lot of work being produced, it's just that there isn't media that covers it. So this also would serve to be that home ground, that hub for like everyone in this industry, to go to. And could it even involve like tech projects in the future? I mean, that's also a possibility. It's not our main focus. Our main focus now is media industry, but it could be extended to support different industries as well.
Okay, so that's a very strong element of like a IMDb, database part to this as well, yeah. Not just a job matching, but also a talent database kind of thing.
Correct. And the freelance/gig economy aspect can be extended beyond like what Fiverr provides. Like, could obviously be extended to like something similar to like those sites like Fiverr, and what's the other site? Upjobs. I can't remember exactly. But essentially Upwork, I think that's the name. Yeah, but it'll be for like the Singapore industry, and it could be for other projects as well, like tech.
Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of potential applications for this solution. Okay, we've got questions from the floor. Very interesting questions. So Brian, just now you were talking a bit about KOLs, which I assume is key opinion leaders, right, or influencers, as we all know. Now, so Hannes Santana is asking, do you mind elaborating about why you're looking for KOLs?
Yeah. Well, it's more of it's more of like a solution provided to companies who are looking for KOLs. And this is not our main primary objective. Our primary objective is really to fix the gap in the media industry. But we are like, if this works out for the media industry, we could then apply this same infrastructure to other industries where it's that lack of transparency. And the main issue is because a lot of times when agencies work, so this could be like a PR agency or it could be a client, and when they work with particular KOLs, the experience that they have is just extremely varied. Sometimes they have a very good experience, sometimes they have a very bad experience. Sometimes it's the bad experiences which make it to the internet and become the next social media drama. And that's why
right.
there's
Reddit,
quite a lot of like negative association with influencers. That's why people have tried to use the word KOLs to stay away from the influencer word. But essentially, the KOLs are, I guess you can as the more media savvy ones, right? And they make a living for this. And there isn't like a like a formal infrastructure in place to support the good KOLs, because we want to make the whole industry more, I guess, more efficient by making sure that the better ones, more professional ones get more work to stay on top, and then it becomes a viable industry already, not only for them, but for the people who support them, like the creatives who work with them as well, to take photographs and whatnot. So you could technically hire, for like KOLs could use this site and also hire a photographer to go and do their photo shoots or do videography for them, because there will be a gig economy component here as well. But yeah, once brands know who the good KOLs are, essentially it's the same thing. Maybe they'll click a button and say, I only want to work with KOLs with a rating of 4 and above, or they have positive stuff, And but we have like a whole list have come out, and it's automated, right? Driven by technology. So, but this is really quite idealistic, lah. I don't know if we'll get to this point. At this point, we just want to, like, for now, we just want to solve the job matching issue, which our teams face a lot.
Okay. Sounds like a real interesting, real world challenge, right? Okay. A question from the floor now, and how tight of a turnaround time are you looking at, Brian?
So the turnaround time, it is flexible depending on. I'll have to go and discuss with my tech lead, Pearly, who's also in this call. But it is flexible because this is not something that we urgently need to do now. It's something that we want to do in the near future. So it is flexible. That's the best answer.
Just don't say tomorrow needed. I think our tech solvers will faint. Okay, great. The next question from the floor. Are you looking to commercialize the solution for other companies to onboard, or is it solely for TSL's use? Yeah.
It actually isn't for TSL. It's actually for the entire industry. It's just that we believe that we can create a product for that the whole industry can use, that the whole industry can use, and it can be a sustainable product. So it can be. That's ultimately what we want to do. While the IMD funding will help at the start to get us off the ground, we want this to be a financially sustainable. I believe that CloudJobs is very financially sustainable already. So it's something like that. That we want to achieve as well. But obviously, it will also be for other industries like KOLs, like the renovation construction industry, the gig economy, and all of that.
So potentially this solution can scale up, can scale to different sectors and different industries. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, another question from Di Chong. It says, after matching is done, does the system have to reach out automatically to the freelancers to inform them that they've been shortlisted for potential projects?
For sure. I mean, it has to be made extremely easy for the people to know that they've been identified. So there has to be like the proposal should include a solution for that. Like, what's the best way to? We just want to make the user experience good for everyone. Meaning that, well, when the company essentially puts out a request for a gig, right? And then after that, people perhaps can apply. Maybe the company is then notified on who applies. So maybe when a job posting is out, the users can set an alert, being notified if there are any new posts for actors in this category, and then they are automatically notified. That's one way, or they could just go to the site and look at the current available jobs. But the proposal is really up to you guys. The key solution they are looking for is whatever works easiest and essentially frictionless, works easy, and it's just easy for people. It makes it easy for people to communicate. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, very good answer, Brian. Okay, we have 2 more for you, and these 2 are very interesting questions. They're very commercially oriented, I would say. Okay, from the floor, this question says, is the platform free for all to use? Meaning, can any freelancer just register and start creating a profile?
Okay, yes, it would be free to use because that's what we want to. We want to help the industry essentially. So that's the idea. It will be free. If there are people who are paying for it, it will be companies. For example, companies who want to, maybe they want to get first dibs, or they'll get like some premium feature. Maybe that ad would be, that ad would be sticky somewhere, something like that. So there will be some advantages for being. So it's like a free to play. I don't know if free to play is the correct term, but essentially it's going to be free for the vast majority of users lah. We want to make it as easy as possible to sign up and for people to go and find work and whatnot here. But the paying customers will probably be the companies lah, who would value this as a solution.
Okay. Now, very interestingly, Nicholas has a question for you, and I believe Nicholas kind of predicted what you're gonna, how you're gonna answer the previous question. So now he's asking, what's the business model you're looking at for the platform? Is it a commission card, software as a service, a listing fee, and so on?
It would probably be as a commission based. So for every essentially for every like gig, for example, I mean it's similar to what Fiverr does lah, right? They would, if there's a gig, and then essentially the person who lists the gig would have to go and pay Fiverr like 5 to 10%, something along those lines. So that one is something that at first it's just going to be free for everybody, and then we're going to use market data and then adjust and come to something. But there has to be that, obviously, that payment mechanism built into it for sure, so that we can eventually enable payment. Yeah, and it should be like a simple, easy process, I don't know, using PayLah or whatever, something which is easy for Singaporeans, PayPal, PayLah, whatever. I think there's some integrations out there already.
And I believe the creativity and ingenuity of our tech solver community will be able to help you solve this payment engine issue. So I have no worries about that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Brian. I think we cleared all the questions for your first business challenge today. So shall we now move on to your next business challenge, which is all about the social media topic trend monitoring analysis, which I believe is a very, very hot topic. Yeah. Take it away, Brian. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Billy. So for this second problem, this is more towards TSL, whereas the first problem statement was more towards the market in general. So right now at TSL, a lot of our work requires monitoring what's going on social media, meaning that what are the latest stories, what are the latest trends, and then it's a pretty manual process. So what our team will do is we'll then try to understand, okay, based on this data in the past, what is going to be some data in the future which is also going to be relevant to our audience. Like for example, a common example is everyone knows that bubble tea is pretty popular with millennials, so we'll create more bubble tea articles. So that's a very simplified example. There's a lot of nuance in all the different verticals, and what we want is we want that understanding of the data points at a level where essentially like humans just can do it at a very limited capacity. If you have imagine a machine with machine learning capabilities to understand like 100,000 data points based on the history of social media in Singapore, you then could probably predict, have some sort of predictive capabilities to come up and imagine what would be content which people will be interested about. So this at the moment is, it's just what we're hoping to solve. We are not sure of the limitations because it does sound quite ambitious. So let me just share with you maybe. So that's the goal, that's the problem that we have, and that's the solution that we're looking for. Maybe I'll share with you guys what we already have. So this is something where, you do not have to go and build this from scratch. We actually have our own tech team, and we've actually built something which is quite decent already. And let me just show you this on my screen. So we have this thing called Insights RN. So if you go to Insights RN, insightsrn.com, you would come across this, but I think this one is private, so we've not openly shared this. But essentially what we have done is we have already gotten permissions from Facebook to use the API and whatnot, to have like a higher number of requests essentially to go and get data from them, to the point where we mine every site in Singapore, like every popular site in Singapore, we mine it every month, and we've been doing this for the last 2 years for essentially, okay, and we want to eventually turn this into something more. Right now it's quite good because, well, okay, let me give you an example. You click on this, let's look at the Singapore's biggest influencer, Mr. Lee over here. Let's click here and view more, and then you can see that it's like the interface it looks quite nice. It's quite good for the purposes that we want to use them for internally. We can look at the history of the engagement, total engagement, blah blah blah. So this is what we already have on hand. We've already built this and it's been running for 2 years, and you also get some cool stats like this. You can look at his top 3 posts in February, or of course Chinese New Year posts, and so on. And you can do this for every single site in Singapore that we are tracking. And this, of course, is also across Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So Instagram, same thing. Instagram, very different people, but same thing. YouTube as well. And we've already, so this is already in place. And essentially, Okay, wait, this is not loading. Okay, essentially what we want to do is we want to turn this into, so it's good as a database, but we want to turn this into a smart database, right? So right now there isn't any like recognition, AI tagging, categorization of content. I mean, we manually categorize, people as like politics and personality, right? But there isn't that, categorization. For example, is this news potentially a fake news? For example, right? If someone comes up with a post, so that's ideally what we want to do, because we really have, essentially, we have all the data on all the posts for the last 2 years on all the biggest publishers. We want to go and try and put this data into this sort of like AI machine learning thing and turn this into something, a smart database, a database we could then learn and use that knowledge. And with that knowledge, they could then give us more information to predict content, meaning that maybe if we are monitoring the post for the day and we have our news at MS News and we want to run a post, suddenly the post that we cover, well, if we go into this database, they might give us a list of all the the top 10 trending posts to cover, or predictively what post would do well as a good news story if we have a slow news day. So there's that AI tagging done, and that understanding and that intelligence essentially through in this system, some form of intelligence, so that we can turn our database, which is it's good as a database, but it's not a smart database yet, and we want to make it a smart database. So let me see if I covered everything else. um, real-time content trend and trend analysis, this will be huge, because ultimately if you can use some sort of like machine learning and AI to help with the way that we formulate our content, that would be amazing. Right now it's extremely manual, so what we have to do is we have to download all the data into Excel tables from Facebook, and then after that we will categorize them manually, like this video was a comedy, this video was a lifestyle piece, and so on. And now that we have to go and create pivot tables, then we have to go and find the patterns. It's very, very manual. And it's, humans can only do so much. We want a machine to be able to do this for us. So yes, a user-friendly dashboard would be very critically important. So it's easy for anyone in the site, a journalist, right, or a lifestyle writer, or even a food writer, right? If someone wants to find out what is the latest food trend, well, because we've been monitoring Instagram and because we've been monitoring YouTube, the latest food trend is probably like this new durian, don't know what thing. Okay, so essentially that's what this platform would recommend. And then if we click on the rationale why, it would show like the list of articles or the list of data points that it used to come out with this. So it's like a very user-friendly dashboard. Performance metrics incredibly, yeah, so this is also included, like the reasons why it did well, machine learning capabilities. Okay, so what's the next slide? uh, Yes. So eventually, what again, we like to think of projects as not just for Singapore and not just for the next 1-2 years. We really like to think of like a longer roadmap, like 5 years maybe. So if this obviously proves to be successful in Singapore, that is something that we are going to take overseas as well for different markets. So I think there are other sites out there like social bakers and whatnot, and they serve different functions. But what we want to do is we want to be a service to content creators and publishers. So who could be our clients? Well, it's the same client base as, there are sites out there like, I think it's called CrowdTangle, and there's something called BuzzSumo. So there are sites out there like that, but they do it very differently. So there is a market out there essentially. Okay, what's in it for you? Again, it will be like we really have like the foundation built, so that's not starting from zero. You've got the getting approved from Facebook took it was a very long process, and we've already passed that hurdle. So right now it's just into the machine learning aspect essentially. Price money of 50K, okay, that's good. And what else? Yeah, essentially working with us to be a partner, and then again, this is something which is quite a long-term view as well. Okay. Um, what we're looking for? We're looking for the solution which would help us create the most. Essentially, would help our content team the most. That's what we want. It has to be as easy as possible for our content team to get meaningful data. So I think the quality of the suggestions is probably the key, right? Because it's no use if like there's AI tagging and the articles and the level of AI tagging is inaccurate, or like it just cannot beat humans. Essentially, we need something which would operate at a faster operate beyond what humans are capable of doing, what our team is capable of doing. And usually that's what computers are capable of doing, just because there's so many data points you can input. You can just input essentially like 500,000 social media posts over the last 2 years. and ideally, I mean, I don't know how that works, but ideally if it's something like that, then the machine can just learn from that. Then that would be ideal. Okay, so deadline is the same as for the media sector, it's 16 July. And now it's the Q&A time. So guys, any questions, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. Our favorite segment of the day, the Q&A, because a lot of interesting questions will come in. But I do have a question, again, from myself to you.
Sure.
So you mentioned that there are already, okay, first of all, you already have your own, database, right? Your own database has been, you've been using for 2 years. You also mentioned tools out there really on the market, like BuzzSumo and so on. So the question is, why not turn to this market tools, and why do you need to create, why do you need to turn to OIP for this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think the main reason why we are turning to OIP for like both our solutions is because what's in the market right now is inadequate to addressing our needs. For the BuzzSumo, it's pretty simplistic. And I've used that product before, and our team wasn't able to get much out of it. So Thought Tango, I haven't personally used it myself. But essentially, we've tried all these products before, and like we didn't find there was a fit, and that's when we decided to go and okay, we need something else, we need something different. Like even for like insights right now, right, which is actually, if you think of it, it's a pretty simple solution, and in fact, beyond this, right, it's not just okay. I'll show you guys briefly what it does. Okay, beyond this, right. It's also we also use this as a client servicing solution. So for example, we are able to generate any stats across any of our sites in real time. So you can see that, essentially I'll just plot this data for us in real time. Like essentially these sites, right, in the agency world, in the publisher world, we have to key in Excel manually all these sites and give to clients. And then a few days later, come and request for an update. So we decided to create like a real-time sites updating across all our platforms. And essentially, it's very easy. It takes like 2 minutes to create a report like this. And then after that, it's just generated in real time. So this was an example of the solution that we created specifically for ourselves, because there wasn't anything like this in the market, right? Again, and then we created something like this. So yeah, again, this is something which we don't believe that's an adequate solution. That's why we do want to create this, and which is also why we feel why it's going to be very valuable, because there isn't an adequate solution like that. Or I believe other countries are probably working with this, and if there is, they probably want to keep it as proprietary tech, because it will probably give them quite a massive advantage.
Well, that's a very good point, Brian, because I think your challenge, right, together with the rest of challenges in individual content, right, I believe most of them, right, have the potential to be applied across the world. Global, there's a potential global market for a lot of these solutions that will be developed. So it's quite exciting in that sense. Okay, Brian, we have questions from the floor. So let me turn to the floor right now. First question is this challenge available only for Singapore-based companies? I believe you have a slide that already answered this. Maybe you can just flash that slide.
Okay, is it? We're going to comply to whatever whatever the IMD guidelines are. So
yeah, okay. Yes,
Billy, you may be better able to answer this.
Yeah, so this slide already answers the question. So I hope basically, yes, there's no geographical limitation. So if you are company based regionally or elsewhere, right, you can also submit your proposed solution for this challenge, but the prototype must be demonstrated in Singapore. So if you are a finalist and you've been awarded by TSL, right, we'll leave it to TSL and yourself to work out the details of how you want to demonstrate the prototype in Singapore. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question. If you have any follow-up questions, do feel free to send the questions to the OIP forum at www.openinnovation.sg. Okay, Brian, next question will be, does the solution need to track trends in other languages besides English? Good question, yeah.
Yeah, I think for simplicity, as what Billy has mentioned, right, we'll just stick to Singapore first. And in Singapore being like, actually, for simplicity, just for the initial phase, we'll stick with English, because that's the main language that we are using in Singapore. But in the future, we probably would have, it's important to get insights from other languages as well. But just for the initial phase, we'll just stick to English, because we just want to make it as simple. The work is really quite complex, so we just want to make it as simple as possible first. One language, yeah.
Great. So basically, for the prototype, it's just English for the time being. Yeah, that's a great answer. Okay, up next. Brian, you brought this up, right? So basically, I realized that the current trend right now is actually putting durian into things like fish soup, which is kind of scary. But yeah, so this question is quite related to that. Not about durian, but about trends. Okay, so how do you currently define things that are going to trend? It's a very deep
So it
question,
is,
I see.
yeah, it is a deep question because it is always a challenge. We believe that there's always some sort of pattern that can be seen. And if you can understand the pattern, then you can predict what the next trend is going to be. Um, so for example, uh, like on TikTok, okay, this is an example. On TikTok, people used to do these type of pranks to people, like where they would just surprise people, and then after that, they will get a bad rap for that because it's not cool to just surprise people randomly, and like usually something negative lah, like they might like put the bucket on someone's head while they are shopping. I mean, young people would do that lah, and you film it, and they think it's funny. Uh, and then after that, you would see lately we realized that okay, yeah, that has gotten a lot of like a negative sentiment, but then there's also positive sentiment where you have like guys who go up to other guys and they'll give them a bunch of flowers and they'll say like, this is for you, you've never gotten flowers in your life, I wanted to give this bunch of flowers to you. So now if you look at these two trends, sorry, you look at these two examples, right, you might think that it's not a link, but there actually is a link to these examples. And the link is there is that spontaneous reaction. That's what people want to see. They want to see that spontaneous reaction when a member of the public suddenly is surprised with something. And obviously, if it's negative, it will not do well. But if it's positive, there's actually a good outcome for everybody, the people involved as well as the people who are watching. So then this content then becomes like the meta, and like people start using this as the best content to be doing at the moment because it's positive for everybody, and that's how content seems to evolve over time. So what this AI tagging has to do is it has to go and take all these data points into consideration, like what was the key element of commonality here, and then after that, at a level which is a lot deeper than what humans can do, because there will be so many different points, and then from there we can then sort of identify a pattern which the machine has to do. It has to identify a pattern, like what is the pattern which links all of this together. Why, and of course we are also using the metrics as the indicator of what content performs well. If there's a lot of engagement, and this engagement is maybe like 2x or 5x more than the site's typical engagement, then that would be a good starting point. And then you will begin to see a lot of correlations, I believe, between like content which fall into certain patterns and categories and these sort of high matrix. And from there, you probably can go and build an algorithm or something. I'm like do not know machine learning at all. Okay, I just had to put that disclaimer out there. But I imagine it will be something like that. And from there, these patterns, okay, like maybe a human would be able to see like 10, 20 patterns, but a machine with that, that whole much longer time horizon of a few years and a few of like a million data points, they are going to see things at a much deeper level than humans ever can. And because of that, they will then have more. I mean, that's the logic now. We feel that they will be better able to predict what would trend before humans know that it could trend.
Wow, that
Okay.
is a very, very deep answer to a very deep question. Thank you, Brian. Give us a lot to chew on, a lot of food for thought, I must say. Yeah. Okay, we have another question, and this comes from Jeremy. I believe Jeremy kind of predicted you answered the way for the previous question, so he has this question for you. Would your solution require the assessment of the qualitative data for the comments as well, which I think leads to your engagement point? Yeah.
Okay, I think that like more data is always better. If there's a way to go and turn this qualitative data into something meaningful and then feed it into this machine, right? Into the machine learning, right? Yes, go for it, because like any data point, like even if you want to go and break down the engagements, right? You break down the engagements into like the laugh, happy, sad, whatever, and maybe you take the ones with the laugh and then turn it into something else, turn it into a metric of its own, right? So that would be I guess a more granular way of breaking down the data, but that's also possible. I do believe that the more data, the better. So if there's, yeah, but that's the thing with qualitative comments, right? I'm not sure what's the technology there or how. I mean, there probably is some sentiment analyst sort of software out there, but I do feel that it will help, but I'm not sure what's the accuracy rate lah. I mean, for what I know right now, for sentiment analysts, like when I invest in stocks, right, I have this portfolio essentially, and then whenever there's news regarding this stock coming out, the portfolio would say whether it's positive or negative news. So they actually have this already in the real world. So I imagine that it will probably play a factor. And usually you could also do some correlation lah. Usually if it's positive content, it's likely going to be performing better. I mean, at least that's what we found when for our news site MS News, we focus a lot on like wholesome and feel good stories. So it'll be like this time where this migrant worker went out of the way to go and help, or this time where there was this very harmonious display of interracial relationships, or like multiple religions working together harmoniously. So that is usually always results in like very positive content for us, right? But then the machine would then go and track like what other data points, what are the other correlations, and then let us know, and then from there we can go and see patterns we haven't discovered yet.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to let you off soon, but I just have one more burning question to ask you. So basically, sure. This technology, this solution, right, must cover content from web portals, I believe, all the news sites and all that, but also social media channels, right? Now, in terms of social media channels, right, what are the must-have social media channels that this solution must track?
I would say the main one is Facebook. That's number one. Instagram and YouTube are kind of like, it will be good to have, but Facebook is probably the biggest one. And the really good thing about this is we really have that tracking done. We really have all the data on hand. Essentially, we really have it through our insights right now. So the challenge for you guys is to make our database smart, enable AI tagging, enable, obviously if we could identify what is fake news and what is not fake news, I think it'll be even a very valuable solution for the government, if there is something like this, right? This news could be detected very quickly, whether it's fake or whether it's credible. And then,
what about TikTok?
TikTok is something that we're not mining at the moment. Okay. I think it'll be also a bit challenging because the nature of TikTok is like the data it comes from video, right? Yep. Like someone is doing something, the data, whereas the data from Facebook and for the data for Facebook is mostly through text. Like a machine can understand it through text. I don't know if machines can understand data through videos as well, but I imagine that through text is a lot easier. Probably if a machine wants to understand data through video, they probably have to go and translate it first. I mean, that's what they do, right? When you talk to robots, they translate it into a sentence, and then they translate the audio into a sentence and feed it back into the machine. So the main challenge actually is Facebook lah. It's not the video thing yet.
But just saying that if our tech solvers have a solution that also covers video analytics, right, you'll be happy to consider that as well, right?
We'll love it. I mean, we think that's amazing. I mean, we're just a bit, we're also mindful of the budget, because I'm not sure how much the budget will cover. But the more that can be covered, the better for sure. But we are understanding, we know with this budget, X amount of work can be done.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for a very great presentation, as well as a very good session answering all the questions. Thank you. And we look forward to a lot of exciting submissions for your challenge. Thank you very much.
Great.
Have a great day, Brian.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to leave the call now. Bye-bye.